Hi, so Asif, welcome to the week, and thank you for joining us from the US. You're teaching in Georgia State University. You were based in Bangladesh before the protest, happened, and you moved base. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you moved?
Thank you, Namrata, and thanks for inviting me. Thanks to the week as well for inviting me. I am working as a PhD researcher at Georgia State University, and also I'm teaching a course here that is the communication introduction to communication. Uh, I was in Bangladesh while the movement was happening, and I was teaching in North South University. This is one of the biggest and the prominent private university in Bangladesh, and the students of this university played significant role in the July protest, which consequently outstated the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's government. I left Bangladesh after like the protest because my program was about to start. I was not sure whether I would be able to come because at that time there was this confusion that maybe the airport would be closed and everything. But fortunately, it was not. The government was able to, calm down the situation very quickly, and our international airport was functioning. And therefore, many of us who usually like, especially the September and August, these are the months when many Bangladeshis come to the US and join US universities for their research work and everything. So, yeah, that's it. And one of the important thing while I was leaving Dhaka is that I was seeing a boiling pot. So Dhaka was a boiling pot at that time. So many things were happening. The government was outstated, followed by a very popular uprising. A new government, led by Dr. Muhammad Yunus, was about to, uh, you know, form the government and take the power. There were confusions, uncertainty, but after 5 months of that event, now when I look back to Dhaka, it seems way better. It seems the boiling pot started settling down, and that the order is getting restored gradually, and we are seeing significant upward progress in terms of overall improvement.
So we'll begin the interview. My first question to you today is: we have got a request from Bangladesh to India seeking, repatriation of deposed Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. How do you see this playing out? Do you really see a chance of India responding adequately, or would that be a thorn in the relations in the next few months?
That's a very good question, and I don't know what is the right answer of that question because this question has multiple layers. Now, the first layers is this request was expected. It was everybody was expecting that Dhaka would be requesting Delhi to hand over the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina because there are several cases against her, and I remember like in October, Dhaka issued arrest warrant against Sheikh Hasina. So there was this pressure on the government that government should ask the Indian government to return Sheikh Hasina to Bangladesh so that the justice process could start. And there was also this discussion that India is not likely going to leave its former ally, Sheikh Hasina, and return her to Bangladesh, where she may possibly face trial. It's a situation that has no solution. Now, there is extradition treaty between India and Bangladesh, and we have seen previously, like handover of people who are accused of crimes from Bangladesh and India. They have been handed over. Like one of the example is Nur Hussain case. So Nur Hussain was accused of murder in Narayanganj. That's a place of Bangladesh, and Nur Hussain was hiding in India. So Bangladesh government requested his repatriation, and he was handed over to the Bangladesh government. Now, this was a positive thing, but also there are pending requested. For example, there was Prashant Kumar Haldar. Prashant Kumar Haldar is accused of money laundering, and there was a request from the Bangladesh government, former Bangladesh government, to Indian government to repatriate him. But this request is still pending. But you see, Noor Hussain or Prashant Kumar, these are very low-profile criminals. I mean, compared to when it comes to the former, state leader. So from that point of view, Sheikh Hasina, I don't see India is going to repatriate her. However, for Dhaka, it's very important, because in Bangladesh there is a popular belief and perception that a justice should be made, justice should be done for the over exercise of state power in terms of in terms of crushing down on the students and the protesters, and the number of deaths that happened in the month of July and August. So it's for the Dhaka's perspective, this is not only a legal issue, this is also a very emotional issue. But I think the administration in Dhaka, they also understand that it's a process. It will take some time, and possibly this would be one of the things between India and Bangladesh which may not see any solution in the future. We haven't seen any examples of such extradition of such kind of political figures in the near future. So it would be a issue that will keep going on for some time.
Right. And we also recently heard from Bangladesh the interim government chief saying that reforms are important before Bangladesh heads into elections. He even said that everything has to be restarted. Which are these areas where the Yunus government has really made any changes or any difference in the last few months? And what's the process that you really think is going to go on after the elections?
See, this government was formed followed by a popular mass uprising. Almost 2,000 students and protesters of common folks died because of this movement, and because of the violence that this movement has faced from the government. Uh, Thousands of people have been, in hospitals, and they are still fighting with their life and to get recovered from the wound that they have faced because of the bullets that was fired to them. Uh, and there is a huge emotional expectation from this government that this government will come to power and they will start the process of transforming the state. The state would be, taken to a position where judiciary, administration, as well as the economic setup would see significant amount of structural changes. Now, last 4 months of what we have seen, that the government has formed several committees, and these committees are working. And most of the committees is about to submit their reports on the state reformation of their respective department by January. It was initially expected that by December, this reforms commission would be submitting their report to the government. But now it seems that by January and February, we would be seeing all the commission reports are coming. And then we will see actually what kind of transitions and the transformations the government is planning to have. So one of the biggest expectation from the interim government was that they will carry out a significant changes in the constitution, which may prevent any form of dictatorship in the future. And we see the Constitution Reforms Committee is compiling their reports. They are talking with different stakeholders, including political parties and civil society members. And it is expected that by January and February, they would be submitting their reports as well. There are commissions working to improve and change the system with regard to the bureaucracy. There is some debate going on, like how this commission's report would be implemented by the government. However, the thing is that in last 4 months, in terms of reforms, we see reforms is a continuous process, and the government has started the process by first initiating forming the reforms commissions. Once these commissions would be submitting the report, and then we will see the actions. And it is expected that by March, April, there would be discussions with the political parties, followed by the reforms commission's reports. And once there would be a consensus between the government and the reforms commission report and the political parties, we would see feasible changes in the government structures. Now, this is a process. It is going to take time. Uh, and I'm also not sure how many reforms would be implemented, because there is a pressure on the government to host an election by the end of 2025. Recently, Dr. Mohammed Yunus, he gave a speech to the nation, and in his speech to the nation, he mentioned that his government would be hosting election probably by the end of 25 December or by the beginning of the 2026. So that means the government has not that much time to carry on all the reforms. So there is a possibility that there would be a consensus regarding the reforms, and followed by the consensus some reforms would be immediately implemented which are necessary to have the election, and then rest of the reforms would be implemented after the election by the elected government. This is still a very uncertain area. The process is going on, but as you are a journalist and you know that there are so many elements that usually influence this kind of reforms activities.
Right. So, as you rightly mentioned, reforms will be a continuous process. However, has the interim government also spoken to other political parties before it, set on this procedure? There are critics who say that the work of the interim government would have been to move into the election process as soon as possible, and leave the reforms to the next government, the elected government, to take care of. But is that the feeling in Bangladesh also, or are people in Bangladesh looking at it, from a different perspective, where they want the interim government to, just as you rightly mentioned, clean up the process and make it more democratic before Bangladesh heads into election, to not to have a repeat, also to have the authoritarian forces, away from the process, where people can really come out and exercise their franchise.
So there is a mixed feeling, and thank you very much for bringing this question up. That there are different stakeholders of this movement. One of the stakeholders is the students, uh, who they were organized under the banner of anti-discrimination movement. So they are very important stakeholders of this movement. And then there are political parties who are also stakeholders of this movement. One of the stakeholders is BNP, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, is currently the largest party in Bangladesh. The second one is Jamaat Islami, who also played a significant role in the protest against Sheikh Hasina. Now, these forces have different ideology, these forces has different political agenda, these forces has different expectation, and their way of looking to state and forming the state is very different. They came together based on the grievances against the former government. The former government's undemocratic behavior, its gross violence of human rights, and also excessive use of force to silence the dissent was some of the reasons that actually helped all these political groups to come together and to organize and to march for a cause which was to outstating the government and to call for a change in the state structure. Now, movement was not initially organized based on this expectation that there would be election. Initially there was not that kind of discussion, because initially everybody was thinking, okay, fine, enough has happened, let the Hasina go, and whoever will come to the power we will deal next time. So that was the common sentiment that was happening in the month of July and August. Now, after the success of this movement, when the new government was formed, now you see there is a division among all these stakeholders. So the student stakeholders, they don't want elections immediately. They want reform first, and they want election after the reforms. And in the meantime, they are also in the process of forming their own political party, which is likely to be announced by February or March. And that means they are coming up with a organized political force. On the other hand, BNP, who many thinks that if there is a election, BNP would make a significant victory in the election. There is a possibility, as I am not a future teller, I cannot say who is going to win, but there is a possibility as because they are the most strongest political party as of now. Now they want immediate election. They want that government should carry on some reforms, but government would not be able to do all the reforms given the time constraints. So they are expecting that government will do some reforms and call for an election immediately. And they are interested to give a reasonable time period, and that is 1 year, not more than that. So there is a there is a bar from the BNP's point of view. Jamaat Islami was initially not outrightly saying what they are wanting, but followed by the chief advisor's speech to the nation, Jamaat also cleared their position that they also want a kind of election by the time that government has announced. So now, if I summarize both the point, what we would be seeing that there is one group which is the student groups. They don't immediate elections, and there is political party who wants immediate elections within 1 year time frame. Question is who is going to prevail in that debate, and who is going to put more pressure on the government to to organize the election. It is likely that the political parties has better power pressure on the government, and government would not be able to do anything without the consensus of the political parties. The government is very clear about that. So it seems that the election would be happening by the end of December, end of 2025 or the beginning of the 2026, and that there would not be like 100% reforms would be implemented, but even if like 20% reforms could be implemented and followed by that election is happening, and people would be choosing their future candidate, that's a fair chance to move forward a more sustainable stability that we all are expecting. Now, about like whether government has discussed with the political parties or not. Yes, government has organized some discussions with the political parties in the two events. So we saw like immediately after 5th August, there were discussions with the political parties, and recently, in last 2 months, there were also discussions, and we saw some photographs of all political parties, and in the center, Dr. Muhammad Yunus. So it was there. However, I personally think that the discussion needs to be happened more frequently and more in details. It should not be only a photo session or just a couple of hours of talk over the tea. Rather, these discussions need to be very deep, and the approach of these discussions needs to be moving forward for a more stable Bangladesh. Now, the government has given a cause that why they are not having that kind of elaborate discussions right now, and I think government has some logic, because government is saying that they are waiting for the commission's report to come out, and once the report would be there, and then they will sit with the political parties, so they have a concrete plan to have the discussions. Now that sounds more constructive, and I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, we would see more political developments by the month of February and March, because that would be the time when all the discussions would be going on and so many headlines would be coming out.
And you also see delayed elections, or as you say, if we move into end of 2025, the Awami League also looking up and kind of bouncing back in certain ways, because if elections are held at the moment, as you rightly mentioned, the BNP stands a good chance. How do you see delayed elections also helping the fortunes of Awami League to, reassert and kind of make some kind of inroad back in people's minds?
So, you see, in South Asia, violence is something that we often forget. And be it India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, we have a common tendency. We forget political violence very soon. And we don't necessarily work for a justice procedure for against those who committed serious crimes against their own people. And this is also applicable in the case of Bangladesh as well. In 1971, Jamaat Islami was one of the collaborators of the genocide that happened against Bangladesh. And the party did not face justice as a political party. The justice, or the kind of justice which Awami League wanted to provide, it was very politically motivated, and it didn't do justice to the people who have been killed in 1971. So that was a problem. So there is always a problem of justice being used for the political gains. In case of Awami League, right now, if you ask me the emotions in Dhaka, though I am not in Dhaka, but I'm very much closely connected with my friends and the other people who are working there and also trying to monitor the situation. What is that there is a strong sentiment against Awami League. There is no doubt that Awami League is one of the biggest political party in Bangladesh. It has ruled the country for 15 years, and out of which 10 years of its ruling was based on rigged elections. Now, uh, people think that Awami League have used excessive power, which they should not have been using in the July and August time period. Of course, there are, issues related to the corruption. There are issues related to the rigged election and human rights violation. But whatever happened in July and August, this is still a fresh memory among the public's imagination. So there is strong reservations about Awami League, but what happened is that if the elections are delayed, that means there would be less chances of sustained stability in the country, and that will allow chaos. And in a time of chaos, people usually forgets what happened in the past, rather they focus on the present. And that is the gap that can help our League to come back. And also, uh, the justice system, the way it's going, it's very slow. It's not that fast. And I don't think it's just because of the government's problem that this is slow. In general, justice is slow because when there is something that you need to decide about people's life and death, justice as a system, it works as a slow process. So this judgment will be going on for some time. There is a possibility that if election is delayed, Awami League will get a chance to come back. However, there is also risk. If the election is delayed, then the resumption of the democratic process would be also delayed. That would not help Awami League as well. Now, I don't think in the larger political system people are thinking much about Awami League, because it's so there is this understanding and perception that okay, fine, they should face some punishment as well, the punishment in terms of law as well as the punishment in terms of these social rejections. So we don't see much empathy for Awami League as a political party. One of the reason that many says that students want delayed election because of course they want to see Awami League is getting judged by the court, but also they want to form their political party, so they want some extra benefit out of the process of being getting support from the state. Now this is still speculations, but I don't see that the elections should be delayed because given the Bangladesh political dimension, and also with reference to what happened in 9/11, that is a caretaker government by a military backed caretaker government which was controlling Bangladesh political power from 2006 to 2008. During that time, that government failed miserably, and people don't want that kind of caretaker or interim government which is not able to deliver them what they need. So right now, the sentiment is that okay, let's have some reform, let's move towards election. The good thing about election is that you see Bangladesh is not having a good and proper election since 2008. After 2008, 2014, 2018, and 2024 elections were not elections at all. So these elections were mostly dominated by the state apparatus, and there were not a significant number of people came out to vote. So because of this absence of public opinion in this government making, we see so many elements which are not necessarily pro state, pro democracy, pro peace, and pro stability are getting operating within the political space. Now, all these elements would be swept away if there is an election, because that is the time when I can say, okay, fine. You see, people have chosen their leader. Now, no matter what you say or no matter how loud you are, people has made their choice. So election is needed for our stability as well.
And in the region, if we talk of, see, within Bangladesh, you're talking of, people's need for democracy and, restoration of normalcy. In the strategic space, do you see any realignment that Bangladesh is doing? After what's happened in the last few months, we see the interim, government reaching out to Pakistan. There've been cultural, trade, all kinds of exchanges, even with China. Do you see some kind of shift in the approach, that the interim government is taking, and do you think it's required and deliberate?
Uh, there were like multiple questions you have asked, and also some of the questions is very sensitive. So let me unpack it as much as I can. So one of the things, yes, there is a realignment going on, and the realignment is, of course, regarding like a couple of players who play a very important role in Bangladesh. One of the players is the US, United States, and the current government has a very strong, good ties with the United States. I don't know what kind of unpredictable situation would be created after the when the Trump will take power in the US. However, up until now, there is a very good relationship going on with the US, and US has a very positive support in the movement as well. On the other hand, if we think in terms of China, now China, many people say that China has no friends in Bangladesh. Everybody is Chinese friend. So, and also I think I was reading one of your article where you mentioned this aspect of Chinese policy as well, that no one is getting favor from China, but everyone is getting favor from China, and that's what is happening now. After 5th August, so before 5th August, everybody thought that China is supporting Sheikh Hasina. And one of the reasons that Sheikh Hasina was able to use and exercise brutal force to control her oppositions is because presumably India and China is supporting Sheikh Hasina. Now, this was the public perception. You see, I don't know how much of it is fact, and I don't want to discuss or debate about its legitimacy. But the point is, it was a perception. Now, after 5th August, what I see the first thing happen is that Chinese ambassador meeting with Jamaat leader in Jamaat's office, and it has never happened since 2010. So China immediately welcomed and opened a communication channel with Jamaat Islami. China also meet with BNP, Bangladesh Nationalist Party. China hosted a kind of program for all the Islamist political party in the Chinese embassy. It has never happened before in last like 15 years. So China now understands like who are stakeholders that this country needs to keep its communication line open. It also hosted a group of BNP delegates who visited Beijing recently to attend a conference which was also joined by political parties of different parts of the world. Previously, this conference was attended by Awami League, but this time Awami League was not invited. So China is playing an important role. Uh, and government thinks, and from government perspective, it's important that government maintain a balanced relationship with China to survive in terms of business and other stability related issues. Now, the issue is with India, and then the issue is with Pakistan. Now, there is a particular realignment we are seeing. Uh, Before I address to the Pakistan issue, one thing we need to understand about the India-Bangladesh relationship is this is actually based on collaboration and conflict. So if we see the 53 years history of India-Bangladesh relationship, we will see there were periods of collaboration and we will see there were periods of conflict. Now, and these conflicts happen because of the mistakes of the both sides. So, for example, India has its own grievances about Bangladesh previously. So, India accused Bangladesh for harboring Indian rebels in the Bangladesh territory, and also illegal immigrants issue was one of the politically discussed issue in India. So BJP came in India's political power in 2014, though the illegal immigrant issue was not a central debate in 2014. But in 2017 or 18, I guess, in that election, it was 2017 or 19. So, 2019 election. one of the central discussions of BJP's election promotion was illegal Bangladeshi immigrants. Now, these are Indian concerns. On the other hand, Bangladesh concern has changed. So when Sheikh Hasina was in power, Bangladesh concern was mostly about the Tista River Share Agreement and also cross-border killing, especially the killing of Bangladeshi citizens in the hand of Indian border forces. Now, this was some very popular issues. Right now, after the fall of Hasina government, the situation has changed. So we can say that the 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 phrase of collaboration has been stopped in a way, and we are seeing an emerging conflict in that bilateral relationship. And Bangladesh accused India for two reasons. And some may argue that Bangladesh has reasons to accuse India for having that kind of accusations. One is Bangladesh thinks that uh, India has mingled in the internal affairs of Bangladesh with regard to elections. And whenever there is a discussions about it, there is a discussion of Sujata Singh, uh, who came in 2014, and she made some uh, what do I say, politically incorrect comments to the media. And many believe that 2014 is the entry point of Bangladesh current crisis. Now, that is one of Bangladesh accusation. The other is Bangladesh thinks that India India over uh, emphasize on its relationship with Awami League than its population. Now, both the countries, India and Bangladesh, they have their complaints against each other, and over the time, there were collaborations and there were conflicts in their relationship. What concerns is that in this process of collaboration and conflict-based relationship, Pakistan was an important element. Now, uh, during the Awami League government, anti-Pakistan narrative was one of the important element of Awami League narratives because it is associated with the 1971 Liberation War, and Awami League's political narrative was related and was based on 1971 war and its consequences. And Pakistan is the great villain in that narratives, and because of that, there was no normal relationship with Pakistan. So we saw some examples that Dhaka University is closing all ties with Pakistani universities, or like the Department of Urdu. The name should be changed because Urdu is the language of Pakistan. We have seen this kind of ultra nationalist attitude as well. Some of these attitude are dominated by the political agenda. Some of are dominated by the emotions that has been triggered by the genocide in 1971. Now the point is, after the 5th August, we see that Bangladesh is not happy with the Indian position, and I think it's very much likely that India is also not happy with the way Bangladesh is responding. So this is very much open secret. Now, Bangladesh also thought that it's not because of India, rather it's because of the Awami League narratives. So what happened in the domestic politics? Whatever Awami League did, now it's important to challenge that. That's the perception. So what happened is that Awami League have not maintained any relationship, any sort of relationship with Pakistan. So let's have relationship with Pakistan. So it was not targeting India, rather it was targeting the domestic narratives of Bangladesh that was set forward by Awami League. So many people think that restarting the relationship with Pakistan means challenging and undoing what Awami League has done in terms of relationship. Now, because of that, we see like immediately Dhaka University opened uh, collaborations with the Pakistan universities. We see Pakistani singers are coming in Dhaka and performing, and also we saw a cargo ship carrying goods in the port, and we see in a reopening of a sea channel between Karachi and Chattogram, the port of Bangladesh. Now, in a very normal situation, this could be a very normal thing. But given the complex context of Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan, whatever now happens, it comes with some other political significances. So, of course, there is a realignment of Bangladesh relationship with China, but that was more normal. That was in a procedural way. When it comes to India and Pakistan, there is a realignment going on. On the other hand, I would like to refer one of the article I was actually reading. Which is Shumit Ganguly wrote in the Foreign Policy, and he also said that India is also having policy realignment with Bangladesh. And policy realignment is a terms that are used in international relation. And one of the reason that policy realignment happened because of the domestic changes. So Bangladesh domestic politics has changed, and because of that, I believe like India is also having policy realignment from its point of view. Just to summarize whatever I was saying in the last couple of minutes is that, see, if there is a peaceful situation in South Asia between India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, hosting Indian singers in Dhaka or hosting Pakistani singers in Dhaka would not be a big deal. But since there is no normal relationship between all these three competing nationalist countries, so anything that happens has a political significance. And like social scientists like you, me, and us, we could translate it, we could depict it in a very different form, we could frame it in differently. But to answer your question, yes, there is a realignment happening.
Just last question, and very briefly, India being, the sole neighbor of Bangladesh, both countries can't afford not to have normalcy in ties and the friendship that it's always enjoyed. From the Indian side, what are the concerns in Bangladesh that you see which need to be addressed in terms of either the approach or being the big neighbor?
Uh, I think there is, first of all, I think this is time to cool down first. Both India and Bangladesh, in terms of, they both are in escalating mood. In terms of like domestic politics as well as in terms of their engagement. So the Bangladesh issue has become a political issue in the Indian domestic politics. We saw the use of Bangladesh crisis as an election agenda in recent state level elections. I guess in Jharkhand, I'm not sure, but I think it was in Jharkhand that this was used as an issue. And it is likely that in the West Bengal, the upcoming elections, the Bangladesh issue also will be used. So there is a domestic applications of this thing. In case of Bangladesh, Bangladesh people are extremely now emotionally charged, because whatever happened in July, August, and also last 10, 15 years, it was a very traumatic situation for many. Now, from that point of view, there is a understanding that India is partially blamed for it. Now, I don't want to go to the debate who to blame from the Indian perspective, whether Bangladesh what it's doing with its minorities, or from the Bangladesh perspective how India treated and interfered in the Bangladesh domestic matter. The point is both the parties needs to behave like adult right now. And this is very important. The Sheikh Hasina era is gone. There is no foreseeable future that Awami League is coming back in the politics very soon. So there is a new reality in Bangladesh, and also Bangladesh needs to understand that India is its neighbors. So they have to collaborate with each other. So one of the reconciliation process could be that from Indian side, India could take a larger step by at least acknowledging the Bangladeshi emotions, that okay, fine, there were things that happened and we both are not happy with that, but how we can improve that situation, how we can improve the bilateral situation. One of the thing, like India have not met with any political party yet. It's been 4 months, and all the competing powers in Dhaka, they are having like direct communication line with the political parties. India may have indirect communication line, but at least in the public space we don't see a discussion that India is also engaging with the political parties who are going to be very important stakeholders in the future of Bangladesh. The second is that India should act about the disinformation campaign going on regarding Bangladesh. I am not saying that the minorities are always safe in South Asia. In South Asia, the politics is around minorities. And it is always, there is this slogan that, okay, minorities is going to take everything from you. But in terms of number, it doesn't happen. So there is a fear around it. In Bangladesh, the violence, whatever violence we have seen, are mostly political, lessly religious. Now, and there is an issue that is actually, very concerning to Bangladesh, that the Indian media, many, not all of them, the way they are depicting the issue is not fair enough. It's not following the ethical framework of journalism. So there may be, it could be an entry point that, okay, fine, let's look at the fact. I'm not saying like India is going to favor Bangladesh. I'm just saying, okay, let's at least start looking at the facts, what's coming from the ground, and how that could be used to destabilize, stabilize the situation. From the Bangladesh end, I think Bangladesh also needs to understand that they have to maintain a bilateral relationship with India, no matter what happens. And this should be not based on political rhetorics, rather based on two states reaching out to each other with reciprocal respects towards their sovereignty, and towards by a policy of not intervening in any other's domestic affairs. And this is also true from Bangladesh side as well, that Bangladesh needs to make sure that India should not feel threatened in terms of its internal security. The same way Bangladesh also should feel secure in terms of its national security. Because I would like to conclude the discussion with this one point, that you see, there is a huge structural and political changes happening in the Bangladesh India Myanmar border. And there is a possibility that we may see emergence of a new political setup there. It's possibly a new state. And if there is a new state in that region, and also that region is already, facing a significant amount of refugee crisis. So that is an issue that India and Bangladesh needs to address together, because we cannot have war very close to our border. That will impact both of our national securities. So apart from like Awami League and BNP, it's the question of national security for both India and Bangladesh. And the stability of Bangladesh depends on Indian cooperation, as well as Indian stability depends on Bangladesh cooperation. Now, if these two states could consider it, accept it, and behave like big brother, not the big brothers or small brothers, rather an equal state with reciprocal respect for each other's sovereignty, I think that would be the beginning point of building trust. Because now we need to allow the melting pot to cool down, and we need to work towards building the trust. So I think that's the future that we should work for.